Heading into 2020, the future of the Chicago White Sox looks brighter than ever. The combination of returning stars, new acquisitions, and rising young talent has given Southside fans more to look forward to than the last decade of White Sox baseball combined. Since the beginning of the 2006 campaign, the organization has had only 4 winning seasons and 1 short playoff appearance. Things were even worse before this period. Between the beginning of 1920 and the end of 2004, the White Sox made the playoffs a grand total of 4 times. 4 postseason appearances in almost 85 years. Between 2 tough eras, White Sox fans had an incredible team to root for in 2005. A season that featured one of sports' worst franchises getting their chance to shine. It's one of the most underrated seasons in recent memory, and today's video is about remembering a team of destiny that too many were quick to forget. Everyone remembers the century-long drought the Cubs suffered through, the longest in sports history. Most remember the third longest drought, one the Red Sox ended with their 2004 win against St. Louis, lasting 86 years. Not everyone remembers who held that number 2 spot. That was the burden of the Chicago White Sox to bear, who going into 2005 hadn't won a World Series in 88 years. As mentioned, Boston ended their 85-year drought in 2004, a year before the White Sox would get a chance to end theirs. Chicago finished 2004 4 games over 500 and 9 games behind the Twins in the American League Central. This was the 7th time in the last 9 seasons they finished second in the division. I can only imagine Hawk Harrelson's frustration with the team after not winning a playoff game since 1993. The 2005 road to glory began in the offseason of 2004. White Sox ownership wanted to change things up. The White Sox decided to get rid of 2 of their powerful sluggers who wouldn't get to be a part of the upcoming run. First, it was former batting crown winner and MVP caliber all-star Maglio Ordonez. For some of you who like neat cross-video Easter eggs, Maglio actually had a small part to play in the Alex Rodriguez-Manny Ramirez trade that never came to be. Ordonez had a really great White Sox career, but had a few stints on the disabled list in 2004 after a late May collision. He'd later go on to have some more good years with the Tigers, including hitting a Major League Best 363 in 2007. Then it was Carlos Lee who was traded to Milwaukee. Carlos was really establishing himself as a big power threat over the past 2 seasons, and continued to do so in the next few years following the trade. Before the White Sox were to go on to win 99 games the following season, they had to put a better team together. I imagine that it probably wasn't done as cool as it was in that Rick and Morty heist episode, but let's pretend for a second that it was. A below-average starting pitcher through the first 8 years of his career, Dustin Hermanson had recently been turned into a relief pitcher and was looking to prove himself in Chicago after signing with the team. Acting as the perfect metaphor for the 2005 White Sox, nobody predicted the kind of season that he'd have. Former All-Star Jermaine Dye had hit more than 30 homers once and driven over 100 runs 3 times, neither done in the last 3 seasons. Dye looked to re-establish himself as an All-Star caliber player after signing a 2-year deal with the White Sox. Luis Vizcaino was the first of 2 acquired from the Brewers in the Carlos Lee trade. He had some success in his first few seasons in the major leagues, and was brought over to try and add some depth to a Chicago bullpen that finished 8th in the American League in ERA in 2004. 28-year-old outfielder Scott Pasednik was the second man acquired from the Brewers. He finished 2nd in the Rookie of the Year voting 2 years prior, and was coming off a 70 stolen base season, the 3rd of its kind this century. The White Sox were looking to add some speed to their roster, and they had gotten just the man for the job. Along with Scott Pasednik, 30-year-old speedster Pablo Ozuna was brought to Chicago to make the team better fit on the base paths. Having only played 65 games in his first 3 big league seasons, he was looking to help his team out any way that he could. Former Yankees hurler Orlando Hernandez, sometimes referred to as El Duque, was one of the few Sox pitchers who had a rough go of it in his first season with the team. But when the team needed him most, he delivered. Bobby Jenks didn't bring many expectations along with him after being claimed off waivers from the Angels. He hadn't played a single game in the major leagues before joining the White Sox, but was still thrown into as high leverage of situations as baseball can possibly offer in his first big league season. A former first-round draft pick in the NPB, Tadahito Iguchi came overseas on a deal with the White Sox, looking to make a name for himself in a new league and a new country. AJ Pierzynski, the catcher everybody loved to hate. The controversial backstop had spent the beginning of his career playing for rival Minnesota, but decided to defect to Chicago and try and help a former rival win a World Series ring. Each of these acquisitions would have their moment in the spotlight at some point the following season. These handful of guys joined current regulars like Paul Konerko, Aaron Rowan, Joe Crede, Mark Burley, and Juan Uribe to try and net Chicago their first World Series appearance since 1959, and maybe even their first World Series win since the days of shoeless Joe Jackson. If you remember that video from not too long ago, you're in luck, because this Cinderella story is the perfect sequel. Now with the new team assembled, the 2005 Chicago White Sox were ready to get started. Baseball is a team sport, but unlike other team sports, one man can't carry a team to a deep postseason run. There are few baseball teams in recent memory that this applies to as much as the White Sox in 2005. Their historic run featured a surplus of memorable moments from many different contributors, each getting their own time to shine. This young group of guys started their campaign on April 4th, 2005 in the south side of Chicago with a 1-0 win over rival Cleveland. By the time 2005 was over, looking back on this win would have a whole new meaning. The team was led by second-year manager Ozzie Guillen. If you don't know who Ozzie Guillen is, well, he's an interesting guy. Not afraid to do things unconventionally, and definitely not afraid to express himself. Guillen spent the first 13 years of his professional career playing shortstop for the White Sox, and was their last Rookie of the Year winner at this point. His only prior coaching experience was for the Montreal Expos, and as a bench coach for the World Series winning Florida Marlins 2 years earlier, but never had he managed a team before 2004. His second season leading the White Sox got off to a roaring start, as his 2005 squad won 26 of their first 34 games, including 2 8-game winning streaks. By the All-Star break, they had opened up a 9-game lead ahead of second-place Cleveland, and had the best record in baseball at 57-29. Chicago sent 4 representatives to the All-Star game in Detroit, with Mark Burley getting to start on the mound. Joining him on the roster were fellow rotation man John Garland, Paul Konerko, and Scott Podsednik. Konerko hit 20 homers in the first half of the season, and Podsednik led the league with 44 stolen bases, with a wide margin between him and the runner-up. Burley's 2 scoreless innings of work for the American League got him the win, granting the American League home field advantage in that year's World Series. This may or may not be important later. While it was a team effort for the White Sox throughout the season, if you were to name them a team MVP, it would have to be Paul Konerko, who got way better in the second half of the season. His second half batting average was 74 points better than the first, and his second half OPS was 175 points higher than the first. The team went on a different route. While they finished July 33 games over 500, and with a 14-game lead in the standings, they only went 15-11 that month, and started to slow down. It only got worse in August, as they played their worst baseball of the season and finished the month with a 12-16 record. Thankfully, the ship was turned around in September with a 17-12 month. Their last week of play was their strongest of September, winning 8 of their last 10 games, which they hoped would give them some momentum going into October. One of the more interesting storylines of the 2005 regular season was the dynamism of the White Sox closer's role. The team started the season with 2004 Rookie of the Year runner-up Shingo Takatsu, a former Japanese star submariner. With early season struggles lasting long beyond their welcome, Guillen decided to name Dustin Hermanson the full-time closer in the middle of May. This would turn out to be a really great decision, as Hermanson turned out to be one of the best relief pitchers in baseball that year. This was up until he suffered a pretty serious back injury in August, which set him down for the rest of the regular season. That would be a pretty big hit for most teams. Not this one. Luckily for them, they had called up hard-throwing reliever Bobby Jenks a month earlier. Jenks was given the full-time closer role in September, and is now one of the most famous White Sox relievers ever. Bobby Jenks was a big guy. You knew it just looking at him. But in case you missed it the first time, Ozzie Guillen made sure that everyone was reminded of it. Whenever Ozzie wanted Jenks to come into the game, he'd make this gesture to the bullpen. It turned into a universal symbol that everybody would understand. That's pretty much Ozzie Guillen in a nutshell right there. Now, you came into this video already expecting the White Sox to win their division, and if not, I'm sure you knew it was coming anyway. They of course did, finishing the season with 99 wins and the best record in the American League. They hit for power, they stole bases, they played great small ball when they needed to, leading the American League with 53 sacrifice bunts, and they had one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. That was a big key difference from 2004. Where their starter ERA was ranked 12th in the American League and 26th in the majors the year before, now it was 1st and 6th. Where their 2004 bullpen ERA was ranked 8th in the American League and 19th in the majors, it was now 2nd and 3rd. Their pitching was a huge part of their success in 2005. I almost forgot to mention something. Mark Burley and the White Sox shut out the Indians on opening day to go 1-0 on the season, and move into first place in the American League Central. They stayed in first place every single day for the rest of the season. Only 4 teams had ever done that and won the World Series. Chicago was looking to become the 5th. While the White Sox cruised through the regular season with little resistance, the postseason was a much different story. I'm just kidding. After securing home field advantage with the best record in the AL, Chicago's first playoff opponent was the Boston Red Sox. The 2005 Red Sox won 95 games, good for second best in the American League. Unfortunately for them, the Twins, and more importantly the Yankees, finished with the same record. The Yankees had the better record against Boston and clinched the division on the second to last day of the regular season. Boston was playing in high-leverage games right up to the season's final day, something you thought could help them going into the playoffs. Their starting pitching was middle of the pack, but their bullpen was dead last in ERA. They were, however, the top-scoring team in the American League, led by David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, who between the two hit 92 homers, 70 doubles, and drove in 292 runs. The tone for this series was set pretty much right away. The bottom half of the first inning for the White Sox showed off exactly the kind of skills that ownership made sure their team had when putting it together. Exactly the kind of skills that got them where they were. Leading off, Scott Podsednik got hit by a pitch. Up next, Iguchi, who showed off the team's ability to play small ball, laying down a sacrifice bunt to advance the runner. After Jermaine Dye was hit by a pitch, Podsednik, representing the team's impressive speed, stole third base. Next was Paul Konerko, displaying the team's win-at-all-cost mentality, getting in the run with 2 strikes. After back-to-back singles from Carl Everett and Aaron Rowand, A.J. Pierzynski took liftoff for a 3-run homer, displaying the team's impressive power. The White Sox handed Jose Contreras an early 5-0 lead, and that's all he needed. But just in case, they made sure to give him an extra 9 runs. Chicago opened up the postseason with a roaring 14-2 win at home. The script was flipped early in Game 2, with the Red Sox scoring out of the gate and going up 4-0 on Chicago and Mark Buehrle heading into the 5th inning. This inning was the only time the White Sox scored that night, but it was all they needed. After RBI from Aaron Rowand and Joe Crede put the White Sox on the board, Red Sox second baseman Tony Graffinino botched what could have been an inning-ending double play. This set the table for Tadahito Iguchi to do some damage.
Driven line hard to left field. Good!
Taking their 5-4 lead into the top of the 8th, Guillen handed the ball over to rookie closer Bobby Jenks to try and get 6 outs in a 1-run game. Jenks shut the door and got it done, giving the White Sox their second straight win, and the series was heading to Boston with Chicago looking to sweep. While they played in a small handful of championship series in their history, the division series wasn't established until the late 1990s. With a win in Game 3, the White Sox would actually be winning their first playoff series since their World Series win in 1917. Imagine not even winning a playoff series in almost a century. The ball was handed to Freddie Garcia to try and get them there, on the mound against knuckleballer Tim Wakefield. 2 early runs driven in by Podsednik and Iguchi had the Red Sox down 2-0 early, before back-to-back homers from David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez tied it up. That would be the first of 2 for Manny that night. Tied at 2 going into the 6th, Paul Konerko hit a 2-run shot to put Chicago back up in front, but the Red Sox were immediately threatening the next half inning. A leadoff shot from Manny knocked Garcia out after 5 innings plus, and the White Sox decided to go to Damaso Marte to hold the lead at 1. After a single to Nixon and walks to Muller and Olerud, Ozzie Guillen decided to hand postseason veteran El Duque the ball with the bases loaded, nobody out, and a 1-run lead. His first assignment, Jason Varitek, who pops out in foul ground for out number 1. 1 man down. Next up, Tony Graffinino, who makes it even tougher on Hernandez, going to a 3-2 count 9 pitches deep into the at-bat. But he too pops up. 2 men down. Johnny Damon's turn. Another long at-bat full count showdown for Hernandez. Here's what he did.
3-2 pitch. He comes in with the bases loaded and gets Varitek, Graffinino, and Damon.
Even though he struggled in the season, El Duque got his moment in the spotlight in Game 3 of the ALDS, stranding the bases loaded and nobody out in the bottom of the 6th and putting up 3 scoreless innings in relief to get the ball to Bobby Jenks. In the bottom of the 9th, facing Graffinino, Damon, and Renteria, Jenks did what Jenks does and set down Boston 1-2-3. The White Sox had won their first postseason series in 88 years. Manny Ramirez and the defending World Series champion Boston Red Sox were swept in the first round of the playoffs in 2005. But just like Mike said in a recent video, fans weren't too upset about it after what they were able to experience just a year ago. While Red Sox fans went home knowing their 86-year-long curse was in the rearview mirror, the White Sox still had a chance to break their own curse lying dead ahead. And next up to try and stop them were the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. 3 years removed from their own World Series title, the 2005 Los Angeles Angels were also winners of 95 games. Unlike Boston, they had one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, with a starting rotation led by that year's AL Cy Young winner. For some of our younger viewers who don't have any memory of that season, you may want to hold on to your hats. This rotation was led by 21-game winner Bartolo Colon, who had a career year, though even that season was nowhere near as good as that hair. Unfortunately for the Angels, Bartolo had to leave his Game 5 Division Series start after 23 pitches due to injury. He'd be unavailable for the upcoming series. There to back him up, though, were John Lackey, Paul Byrd, Jared Washburn, and Irvin Santana to round out a still solid starting four. What happened in the 2005 American League Championship Series was so unbelievable that you'll likely never see it again at any point in the future of this league. In the 2005 ALCS against the Angels, White Sox starting pitchers threw 44 1/3 innings out of 45. Ozzie Guillen made one pitching change the entire series. Contreras got the ball for Game 1 in Chicago. After Garrett Anderson's home run and RBI from Orlando Cabrera and Vlad Guerrero, the White Sox fell behind 3-0 early. Contreras stayed in there until he was taken out of the game with 1 out in the 9th inning. This was the last pitching change Ozzie Guillen made this series. LA would take Game 1. The Angels' defense stopped working in Game 2, committing 3 errors on the night. After an unearned run in the opening inning from the White Sox and a 5th inning solo shot from Rob Kinlan, the game was tied heading into the bottom of the 9th. With 2 out and nobody on, AJ Pierzynski stepped up to the plate and had maybe the most successful strikeout in series history.
Escobar, another strikeout. Pierzynski is going down to first. The home plate umpire has now made a call and safe, and the Angels are already off the field.
The Angels were obviously upset with the clear blown call from home plate umpire Doug Eddings, but with no instant replay at this point, the call stood. Eddings put the winning run on first base. Pablo Ozuna was tasked with pinch running for Pierzynski, stole second base, and scored the winning run after Joe Crede walked it off with a double. The Angels were justifiably upset to feel that Game 2 was stolen right from their hands. On Chicago's side, Mark Buehrle got the win, throwing a complete Game 5 hitter. With the series tied at 1 apiece, 6th place Cy Young finisher John Garland got the ball for Game 3 in Anaheim. A 3-run first capped off by a big 2-run homer from Konerks was all Garland and the White Sox needed. John Garland threw a complete game of his own, and the White Sox took Game 3 5-2. More of the same in Game 4, another first-inning homer from Konerks, and another complete game outing from Freddie Garcia. With an 8-2 win, Chicago was a win away from their first World Series appearance in 46 years. Game 5 starter Jose Contreras, who, if you remember, was taken out of the game with 1 out in the 9th inning in Game 1, was dying to join in on the complete game fun. With the Angels up by a run in the 7th, it was Game 2 hero Joe Crede who tied the game with a solo shot and then singled in the go-ahead run an inning later. The White Sox went on to take Game 5, and guess what Jose Contreras did? In the 2005 ALCS, Chicago put out the same lineup each game. They made only 2 offensive substitutions, both pinch running appearances from Pablo Ozuna, and made 1 pitching change. The whole series. The entirety of the White Sox bullpen and bench besides Pablo Ozuna could have went on vacation after Game 1, and the White Sox would have still won 4 straight games. Paul Konerko took home Series MVP, but in my opinion it definitely should have been Joe Crede. They both hit 2 home runs and drove in 7, but it was Crede who had the Game 2 walk-off and just flat out played better. But given he was 4 wins away from winning the World Series, I'm sure he didn't mind. With a 7-1 record in the first 2 rounds and with the ALCS behind them, there was only one thing left in their way. After eliminating the last 2 American League World Series winners, the White Sox had a date with the NL champion Houston Astros. They were back in the World Series for the first time in almost half a century. The 2005 Houston Astros had the 3rd best record in the National League, but found themselves stuck in the same division as the 100-win Cardinals. They turned a wildcard spot into an NL pennant by beating Atlanta in 4 and rival St. Louis in 6. There was a big jump up in starting pitching talent from the Red Sox to the Angels, and there was another big jump up from the Angels to the Astros, and a giant jump if you just consider the top 3 in each rotation. Houston's Big 3 featured Roy Oswalt, Andy Pettitte, and reigning Cy Young winner Roger Clemens. At age 42, Clemens finished with a 1.87 ERA or a 2.26 ERA+, both career highs at age 42. There had only been 5 other National League pitchers since 1970 with a lower ERA in a season than Roger Clemens. He somehow didn't win the Cy Young that year, but that's a whole other story. The two guys ahead of him in that rotation weren't too shabby either, with Oswalt finishing third in the race and Pettitte finishing fifth. If the White Sox wanted to break their curse, they had their work cut out for them. Thanks to Mark Buehrle's efforts in Detroit 3 months earlier, the White Sox had home field advantage in the 2005 World Series. Game 1 featured Jose Contreras and American League ERA leader Roger Clemens facing off in Chicago. You think the White Sox cared how good his regular season was? Pfft. The White Sox struck in the first inning yet again against the pitcher with the second best home run rate in Major League Baseball. They continued to defy the odds. 2 more runs in the following inning knocked the historically good Clemens out after only 2 innings of work. Joe Crede hit his 3rd postseason home run in the 4th inning, which gave Chicago the lead heading into the 8th. With runners on 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs in a 1-run game, Bobby Jenks was tasked with stranding them with Jeff Bagwell at the plate. With his fastball in triple digits, he overpowered the future Hall of Famer with ease. The only time Houston hitters made contact against him that game was on everything but his fastball. He pitched a perfect 9th inning to give his club a 5-3 win and a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 was a back-and-forth affair with Pettitte and Buehrle on the mound. Pettitte had the better night, but was done after throwing 98 pitches through 6. Manager Phil Garner handed the ball to Dan Wheeler, who had a great regular season, but even Wheeler couldn't get out of the inning. After a double, a walk, and a hit by pitch, Chad Qualls came in to face Paul Konerko with 2 outs and the bases loaded. Houston up by 2. Do I even need to say more?
With Konerko up, and he rips one into left. Konerko, grand slam!
White Sox fans nearly tore apart US Cellular Field by the seams, and all Chad Qualls could do was breathe in that crisp 45-degree air and stare into the night. Bobby Jenks was back on for the 9th inning, set to face 5, 6, and 7 in the Houston order. A single, a walk, and a ground out serving as a sacrifice gave the Astros one last chance to tie the game with runners on 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs. 37-year-old Jose Vizcaino came in to pinch hit for Adam Everett and came through with a big 2-out first pitch single to drive in the tying runs. Jenks couldn't get it done and the game was tied. The Astros decided to go with all-star closer Brad Lidge in a tie game on the road to hold it in the bottom half. With 1 out and nobody on, Scott Podsednik came up to the plate and did something only 13 other Major League players had ever done before.
Podsednik hits one to deep right center field. Back at the wall. This ball is gone. How do these things happen? Unbelievable.
The series was heading back to Houston with the White Sox leading 2-0. But that didn't mean the end for historic late-inning baseball. The third of Houston's dynamic trio and Roy Oswalt was on the mound, going up against John Garland for Game 3. Houston hit Garland early after a leadoff double from Craig Biggio and an RBI single from Lance Berkman plated the game's first run. They'd tack on 2 unearned runs in the 3rd and went up 4-0 after a Jason Lane homer in the 4th. Even with Oswalt having control issues, he held the White Sox in check through 4, but that all ended in the top of the 5th. Crede led off the inning with his 4th October home run and was followed by hits from Uribe, Podsednik, Iguchi, Dye, and Pierzynski to put up a giant 5 spot against Oswalt and to take a 1-run lead. The score would stay the same until the bottom of the 8th after a Jason Lane double against former closer Dustin Hermanson tied the game at 5. El Duque was back in to send the game to extras in the bottom of the 9th. With 1 out, Chris Burke walked, reached second on an error by Hernandez on the pickoff, and immediately stole third on the next pitch. With the winning run 90 feet away, El Duque had to walk a similar tightrope to his outing in the ALDS against Boston. He walked Biggio to set up the double play and struck out Willie Taveras for the 2nd out. He intentionally walked Lance Berkman because neither he nor Biggio at first mattered with the winning run at 3rd. With the bases loaded and 2 outs, Morgan Ensberg stepped up to the plate. Ensberg had an all-star season in 2005, hit 36 homers, and finished 4th in the MVP rate. Oh, Hernandez got him. Both bullpens exchanged 4 scoreless innings, and Chad Qualls even put the team on his back with 3 of his own. Some sort of mini redemption story arc after giving up the grand slam to Konerko 2 days earlier. The Astros had already had their fair share of long extra inning games in the 2005 postseason. In their divisional matchup against Atlanta, they broke the Major League record for longest postseason game in history with an 18-inning win in Game 4. They've rode this coaster before. With 2 outs and nobody on in the top of the 14th, Jeff Blum came up to bat. Wait. Who's Jeff Blum? We've talked about a lot of guys in this video, but not Jeff Blum. Blum was a utility-level infielder and former member of the Houston Astros. He also spent time playing baseball in Australia, which I'm sure we'll talk about again at a later date. He was acquired at the trading deadline in a low-radar deal with the San Diego Padres for a prospect. He played in only 31 games with the White Sox in his only season with them in 2005. Yet if you were to go to Chicago right now and head to US Cellular Field, you'd find a beautiful bronze statue of none other than Jeff Blum himself. And here's why.
Longest game in World Series history. Blum hits it into right, down the line. It is gone. Jeff Blum, the former Astro, goes deep.
Jeff Blum got his moment in the spotlight in Game 3 of the World Series in Houston. It was his 7th home run that year, including the regular season, his 2nd as a White Sox, and it would immortalize him in the history of the franchise. Even after the Blum homer, the Astros wouldn't go away easy. They were threatening in the bottom of the 14th, with runners on the corners and 2 away. We need to pause for a second. We need to quickly go back and look at the past few hours from a different perspective. We've got to check in and see what Game 2 starter Mark Buehrle's been up to the past few hours. After throwing 100 pitches 2 days earlier, Buehrle sat and watched his teammates for hours on end in Game 3 just as you'd expect. In the early innings, he grabbed a few beers to watch the game. Mark Buehrle best described his interactions with coaches that night. Quote, "Hey, you guys are sure you're not going to need me, right? No, Mark, you're not pitching today, you just went." So I'd hear that and grab a beer. It was only like 3 beers. Max. Definitely no more than 3 though. I swear. By the 11th, I began to get the feeling that something strange might be taking place. Something strange was taking place, Mark. With 2 outs and runners on the corners, Ozzie Guillen called in raging alcoholic and Game 2 starter Mark Buehrle in the 14th inning to get the save. Just kidding about that alcoholic part. With as magical a season as the White Sox had, I'm sure you'd think that it would be as easy as 3 pitches for a pitcher 2 days removed from a 7-inning outing and like 2 hours removed from 3 beers. Well, you'd be right. Mark Buehrle got the 14th inning save in Game 3. While pitchers from both the White Sox and Red Sox had pitchers drinking beer during games at some point in their history, only one of the two had theirs save a game in the World Series. This was something Buehrle never said publicly until 12 years later and was one of the best kept secrets in baseball. On the back of Mark Buehrle, the Chicago White Sox were a win away from winning the World Series. October 26th, 2005. With a win that night, Chicago would break the second longest championship drought ever. With a win that night, the city could finally claim victory after decades and decades of struggles. With a win that night, they'd be champions of the world. On the mound to try and secure one last victory, Freddie Garcia. With a tired bullpen from the 14-inning-long affair that ended around 1:30 in the morning that same day, they really needed Freddie to step up. The same was asked of Houston starter Brandon Bach. With the White Sox beating up on 2 of their incredible big 3 and outlasting the third, it looked nearly impossible for Bach to stop them. After his solid outing against the Cardinals in the championship series though, Houston hoped that he could repeat some of that magic tonight. And he did. Bach fanned 7 over 7 shutout innings and came up big for Houston, keeping Chicago quiet. Freddie Garcia responded with 7 shutout innings to match, and it was a scoreless pitcher's duel heading into the 8th inning. Game 2 loser Brad Lidge came in for his 3rd appearance in 4 days. Pinch hitter Willie Harris greeted him with a leadoff single, Posednik moved him up to 2nd, Everett moved him over to 3rd, and Jermaine Dye drove in the game's first run. 1-0 White Sox. Chicago went to their rookie closer to try and shut the door on a historic World Series win, 88 years in the making. The weight of an entire city on the large shoulders of Robert Scott Jenks, the 3rd and final full-time closer the White Sox had in 2005. 2 outs, runner on second base, 1-2 count, a strike away from being enshrined in baseball legend for the rest of time. Baseball's a team sport, but unlike other team sports, one man can't carry a team to a deep postseason run. And there was no one man on this White Sox team that did. A team of winners, predicted by few, if any, to win 99 regular season games and steamroll through the postseason with an 11-1 record, won the whole damn thing. Joe Creedy, Bobby Jenks, Jeff Blum, Scott Posednik, Paul Konerko, Mark Buehrle, John Garland. Find me a player on that team that didn't help the White Sox get to the promised land. They outscored Houston in the World Series by only 6 runs, which is the lowest run differential ever in a series sweep. Even when they were letting you get close, you still had no shot. They began their run with a 1-0 win on opening day. They got another 1-0 win to start them off in the second half, and they got a 1-0 win to close it out. This magical team has been forgotten several times by the media in the years since their World Series win, and is severely underappreciated in the grand scheme of baseball history. Never forget what their starters did in the championship series against Anaheim. Never forget the team that knocked out the previous 2 American League World Series winners on the way to the top. Never forget the one of only 2 teams to have won 11 games in a 3-series postseason. Never forget the team that swept a 4-game series from an opponent with Oswalt, Pettit, and Clemens at the front end of their rotation. And never forget the 5th team to ever go wire-to-wire in first place and win the World Series. Never forget the 2005 Chicago White Sox.